So welcome to another match preview here on Stones TV and on the Maidstone United podcast. This time we look ahead to the latest return league fixture with the Stones travelling over the bridge for Monday Night Football. So my Carragher or Neville, which one is where we travel to the C word, Chelmsford. So Chelmsford's transfers since last we met. Paul Appiah joined the evening of the last meeting. He was part of the successful Stones FA Cup run last season. Fullback Albert Eames joined on loan from Watford in October. Jazzy Barnum-Bob returned in November after a summer switch to Hornchurch. Louis Dunn went on loan to Dartford. Central defender Frankie Edwards joined on Boxing Day on loan from Colchester United. Osman Foyo was one of many players recalled in the new year by their parent clubs. He, of course, was recalled by Ipswich Town. He scored in 12 in 23 for the Clarets in that spell. 2 winners in his last 2 games as well. Attacking midfielder Finlay Wilkinson joined on loan from Barnet, and he scored twice in their 2-1 win over Hornchurch 9 days prior to the fixture. Left back Harry Barbrook came in on loan from Ipswich, who was on loan at playoff winners Braintree last season. Forward Salim Akanbi joined from Hemel, having trained with the Clarets earlier in the season. And most recently, at time of recording, Joe Rye signed on loan from Barnet, having signed in the summer after being part of our last opponent's squad, Worthing, the playoff runners-up. He was part of their defence last season. So Nigel, a lot of activity I've run through there, in and out, but they've recovered tremendously from that poor start that they suffered like we did.
Yeah, I mean, having a 5-1 win over us sort of boosted their confidence.
Yeah.
And they've recovered, but they've never really got that sort of run of results together, have they?
No.
They go on a little run of like 2 or 3 unbeaten, and they go and throw some shockers in there. And
Yeah.
I mean, something that you didn't mention there, I mean, Robbie Simpson has announced that he's stepping down at the end of the season.
Yes,
so
he is.
Again, that's an interesting dynamic to sort of like add you sort of as a player. If you know the manager's going at the end of the season regardless, you know, you're playing for a contract to a manager you don't even know who's going to be there. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird sort of dynamic to be having. But again, as we mentioned with Worthing, we've had a lot of battles with them down the years, and I think I remember going there in our first National League South season, and they put a spanner in the works around about Easter time, didn't they?
Yes.
When we were sort of like going for the title with Ipswich and Sutton at that time, and that was when we sort of conceded defeat in that, and in the long run it probably did us a favour because we could concentrate on those 2-legged playoffs and the final against Ebbsfleet. But yeah, I mean, even in our East Midlands Premier days, you know, I think they're still our record defeat, isn't it? 7-0.
Yes, 7-0.
7-0. Yeah. So the statos out there will no doubt know that one and look that up. And so there's some battles there, and they've got some good players, and it's like, because we don't know how we've got on against Worthing at the time of recording for this, you know, is it the ideal game to go and play
close
after?
Yeah.
You know, having the result that was in the, it's sort of like chalk and cheese, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like our Worthing away performances alongside Truro is probably our best sort of result of the season.
Yeah.
And that 5-1 at home was our worst defeat.
Yeah.
You know, and we still, you know, refer to it now as the C word, don't we?
Of course.
So, you know, is that fire in the belly going to be there for the players to sort of like go there and, you know, put a marker down and make a performance? Again, you know, we did all right with them against them last year. I think we got 6 points against them. They finished second in the league. So again, they were the team that were the ones that were riding high, and we put a spanner in their work. So you know, there's been evidence of that throughout the years and throughout the seasons in our history. So you know, I don't see why Monday night will be any different.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the Robbie Simpson news, I did have it in here and then I did take it out, but from memory I'm sure I had written down that it was something along the lines of they were due to play at Bath and the game got called off, like a few did around that time of year, a few weeks back. And then randomly at 3 o'clock they just posted on their website and their socials, oh yeah, Robbie Simpson's leaving. It seems like a weird time to have announced it, because you're wondering, literally as a game should have been kicking off, they've then decided, oh, we'll put that news out instead because we've got naff all else to do for the next 2 hours, so let's all just have a collective mourn about Robbie Simpson. I mean, the timing, as we've already discussed, isn't great, but the literal timing of when they announced it, surely you would have thought there would have been another time they would have announced it of an evening or post-match halfway back along the motorway. I just thought I'd bring that up. I've found that quite strange when I've read that.
It was a bit weird, let's say. They've picked up results. They've picked up results since the announcement. So
it goes one in two ways, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. But they're another mid-table team, aren't they? Really, I don't think they're going to. Unless they go on a really amazing run, and they've got the players to do it. I mean, we haven't mentioned Charlie Ruff yet. Another one that we mentioned in our preview. He was instrumental in them getting second place last year. But they have been the sort of like perennial bottlers, haven't they, in the playoffs? And I mean, apologies, Ben. If you're watching this, as you were part of that team last year, obviously you've got to remember that. He's sort of like got friends in that dressing room, so he's going to have the inside knowledge there. But it's just been the case throughout the years, isn't it? Certain teams have got like a certain DNA in the way they play, and the rivalries they've got against teams. And Chelmsford and Maidstone are just one of those teams that are, they always seem to be locking horns like two stags, don't they? Sort of thing.
I think, as you say about Chelmsford, I think from memory, again from the stats that I always have handy, I think they're the only side who've played in every single season of the National League South's existence as well. So as you say, they are perennial. Easy to say, annual. They're there all the time.
They seem to have like a good season and then a not so good season, don't they? So there'll be a season where they sort of go for it, and throw all their eggs in one basket, but then they just seem to come up a little bit short.
And I think this season there was something about the funding and fundraising issues that they've mentioned.
I know they've gone to sort of like a hybrid sort of full-time training session like we have, and they're sort of in that transition, and as Eastbourne are finding out as well, that's not just because you're full time, that doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to get that success straight away. So it does take a few years to sort of bed that in. So maybe they're going through that transition at the moment and adding to some of the issues, and that's why Robbie sort of stepped down. I know he sort of cited like family issues and he wanted to spend some time with his family and stuff like that. So all the best and good luck to him, but it just seems, like you say, the timing of it was weird when you're in the middle of a season sort of thing. But again, like we say, with all these teams, if you can go and get a result against Maidstone, it kind of makes your season, doesn't it? That's not being sort of like the big I am, but it's just like that seems to be the way that most of these teams sort of like, they're always up for it, because Maidstone have got a big following and it's not that far away to go, is it? And it's just, that just always seems to be the case.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that. Good luck to Robbie for the rest of the season after Monday. So the key men for the Essex side so far this season, Charlie Ruff and Jake Hyde, are joint top scorers with 5 apiece after Foyo was recalled earlier this month. Ruff scored twice at the Gallagher behind us back in September. Ted Collins has kept goal for all 5 of their clean sheets in the league this season, and Cameron James returned from a long-term injury layoff in October, and he's scored 3 goals since then, including a late leveller at Torquay in November. So Nigel, we all know what they did over there in September, and they've a lot of those players still available again, and they'll be hoping for a similar performance to, as you already said, boost that outside shot at a playoff spot.
Yeah, exactly that. Mentioned Cameron James there, another stone against the Stones, of course. Coming in that first season under John and Hackhand, didn't he? And I think he played in the FA Cup game at Blackpool, was it? Yeah. So I say it's going to be an interesting game, and it's dependent as well on how we did get on against Worthing. So it's either going to be the ideal game to be playing, or it's just going to be another sort of like had a similar feeling to where it was against them in that home game.
Yeah, it's either rock bottom after something going wrong, or is it building that momentum off the back of the Weymouth win? It's very intriguingly poised, and again, always is whenever we play Chelmsford away on a Monday night, because it's always hot on the heels of that game. And then you think to yourself that most circumstances, whether it is a win or draw or a loss, whatever the result is 48 hours prior, at least you can go, right, you can carry on the momentum, or we can turn this mess around that we've just created for ourselves 48 hours ago. So the form for the Clarets since last we met on that fateful September eve, they were knocked out of the FA Cup in the 4th qualifying round 4-0 at Barnet from the level above. Knocked out in round 2 of the FA Trophy, just like the Stones. They suffered a 2-0 loss at Peterborough Sports. And so to their league results, 19 league matches prior to their Saturday game at Eastbourne Borough. since our last head-to-head. 8 wins, 6 of which were at home, 5 losses, 3 of those were at home, and 6 draws. So Nigel, not sure too many people would have honestly said where these two teams would be now after that game back in September.
That's right, but you don't know if he's going to pan out, do you? I mean, they did have a lot of sort of a squad turnaround, as did we, but like I said there, they do tend to sort of come off the back of a really good season, and then they just have a levelling out season, and that's proved to be the case. There's not a lot of back-to-backs there, as you just read that form is pretty much
up and down.
Yeah, exactly, and even numbers across the board, isn't it, in wins, draws and losses. So it's just again, like similar to what Chesham was last week as well. They're your archetypal sort of middle of the road team, and you've just got to be on your guard against them, because they've got threats that they can cause you damage. They're going to put crosses in the box. They're going to get from set pieces and corners and restarts and all the old stuff that you look out for. But it's just going to be about our mindset and how we recover hot on the heels of the Worthing game.
So if you can't remember all of the players from the previous meeting, then why not head back to our previous preview video and podcast from this season for more information on Monday's opponents. The links to the video and podcast are both in the description below. So if you can't make it to the game on Monday, be sure to tune in to myself and himself, Nigel, from 7:30 on Stones Live. You'll see us on the hot take and hear us on the highlights once they go online. Well, they say that revenge is a dish best served cold, and the fact that it will be a Monday night in late January, the weather could very well play its part for the serving temperature. Here's hoping for a different outcome from last time for the Stones. Our thanks, as always, to you for watching or listening to the latest preview. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, search for the Maidstone United podcast. See or hear you for our next preview of the potentially huge top of the table clash against Torquay United, and a few little extras in there if you're all good boys and girls and everything in between. And as always,
come on you Stones!